We interrupt your regular schedule of Time Warp Radio to present a specially broadcasted bonus episode. Today, we are so beyond privileged to have the hilarious hosts of the hilarious podcasts, the two old queens, John Flynn and Mark Rennie.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Was that the right time to say hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're allowed to say hello whenever you want.
Oh, good.
I'll
Yes.
keep that in mind. Next funeral I go to.
Hello. Hello.
And whoever isn't listening to it already needs to.
Yes.
Because it answers the question we all have.
Yes.
What is the gayest movie ever?
Absolutely.
Yes. That is our life's mission, to figure that out.
Well, when did you guys, when did the project start? When had you decided that this was what you wanted to discuss?
We had wanted, we've known each other for, 5, 7 years. Who can say at this point?
Right.
Feels like forever.
Close to 10, actually, at this point.
Oh,
Because that's how long I've lived in LA, almost.
There you go.
Sure.
So we always knew, we always went to the movies together, and that was a thing. We were both movie simpatico. We both enjoyed going a Friday morning, 10 a.m. stupid
We're both
blockbuster.
unemployed. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And we knew we wanted to do something together. It just took a while to figure out what that thing was.
Right.
And then we just we went on our friend John Gabris would have us on his podcast, High and Mighty, and we'd always go on to talk about the Oscars, and he just started dubbing us the two old queens, and we're like, well, that sounds like a spinoff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love it because, so you've always loved movies then?
Always loved movies, always been gay, so it's a natural fit.
Also, oddly, always been old. Don't know how that happened.
That's true, though.
You were a 10-year-old.
It's sort of
with
like a
beard.
Benjamin Button, but we never age at all. We just came out old. That's what that is.
You call that a vagina?
I've been in room here.
So then you were going to casual matinees.
Just casual.
And then did you
Yeah.
just start asking each other, was this gayer than the last one?
I don't know if it was that specific. We were just sort of, we just talked about the movies, and then when we figured out our podcast, we were like, oh, here's a fun way to sort of organize it. So it wasn't just what do you think? You know what I mean? So it gives the conversation a bit more of a focus or something to do.
We love a structure.
Yes. I feel safe with the structure.
Yeah.
Ironically, it makes me feel free.
Well, yeah. It's such a, the concept alone is, okay. You need to talk about the complex and Byzantine scoring system because I'm here for it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
they're just categories that I wouldn't think of, but then when you say them, I'm like, oh,
Makes
that's
total
such
sense.
a great scoring category. Entrances with pizzazz and breath work.
Vibrato.
Well, we're lazy because we have our guests, every episode, our guests add a category.
Yeah, so we started, I think, with 10 or maybe 12 or something like that. And then part of the premise of it is each guest who comes on adds a category. So that's how it has become so complex and Byzantine. And it has evolved over time.
There's the canon category, and then there's also bonus categories where you can make a bonus points, and then there's
a random wheel where a bunch of categories exist. So there's an element of luck and chance to the whole scoring system, which I think keeps it fun.
Isn't that life though in a way?
Exactly, that's true.
Yes.
So we usually go through about 40 categories an episode, I would say. I think this is the number.
That seems
we
about
might be
right.
up to.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite category?
That's a good question.
I mean, it's like having a favorite child.
I think drag queen inspiration is always a fun one to talk about because what are the iconic looks? You know what I mean? What's a movie or someone could do a drag version? I just saw on just the most recent episode of Drag Race, Rosé did an amazing mask take.
Oh my gosh,
you know,
yes.
that was like, oh, that's great, and
Yeah.
it's like a fun. It was The Mask, but it wasn't literally The Mask. You know, it was like
Right.
Mask as a lady, which it's just fun to see. Like, what movies have like just iconic looks, and so many don't.
It's
Okay,
true.
but the real question, was it orange?
I
mean, it seemed orange on my TV. I don't know. I wasn't there.
We
Things can
all needed
change
to adjust our settings.
a little bit,
I feel
yeah.
like if it wasn't
like-
surrounded by so much other yellow, it would probably be
Yeah.
better. You know, what I mean?
Exactly.
But she wasn't helped by all the mountains of.
It's sort of like how I feel about like my face, where like I'll just look at myself and I'll be like, oh, I'm not aged, and then I'm like next to a 20-year-old and I'm like, oh, time has been cruel. Sort of that idea.
Oh my gosh.
I think that my favorite category, we didn't get it on our episode, but I think my favorite category is probably how Korean is it?
That's from our
Yeah.
Parasite episode. And so many movies don't score well in that. Can you imagine?
No.
But what a good category for that guest to have made, like, I'll always have a leg up.
Exactly. It is funny how some guests really come to play and they really try to game the system and make it, you know, not only lift their movies up, but sort of kneecap the movies that come after them.
Like one
Well,
similar to that
yes.
is from Pieces of April is Scooter as Transportation is a category.
Oh my god.
Ironically, we had one just a couple weeks ago. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It got
And
that
there's
on
a
the
lot of
wheel.
Scooter.
It's set in Italy, so there's a lot of Vespas. It did well.
Well, hey, yeah,
Ooh.
Roman Holiday.
Roman Holiday
earn
would
That would do
crush.
one, yeah.
But we were just so excited and honored that we got to argue our personal pick of gayest movie ever,
We were delighted to have you.
the
Yeah, it
Rocky
was
Horror Picture Show.
And it did very well. It's still it's 3. It's
Number
it's
3.
still third.
Yes!
The third
Holding
gayest movie
tight.
ever. Holding tight. So I think it'll be comfortably top 10 for a
For a
year.
long time.
A
Yeah,
very
yeah.
long time. I don't know.
Well, I was wondering if you thought where you thought it might rank, and if it surprised you at all, or if there are any movies that have surprised you through this journey you've gone on.
For Rocky Horror, I hadn't seen it in forever. I knew there's like, I knew the songs more than I knew the actual movie, so I assumed it would probably do. I wasn't shocked at all that it was in the top 10. Just,
No.
it's a musical, and also horror does really well for whatever reason.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
sort
wasn't
of like,
surprised.
there tends to be like a campiness to horror, even if
Yes.
it's not intending to be.
Right.
But it's just sort of like the innate theatricality of it. You know what I mean? Gives it a sort of a heel up, as it were, in Rocky Horror's
Oh,
case.
I was surprised The Bride of Frankenstein scored as high as it did. Because going in, if you had told me, oh, that's going to be the second gayest movie we do, I would have been like, no way. Maybe like 20 or so. But then we saw it and like, oh, there's like
you're like, oh,
actual
yeah.
gay actors in it too, playing gay people. And talk about
Yeah.
drag queen inspiration.
I mean,
Bride of
yes.
Frankenstein.
There you go.
Has anybody done the Nightmare on Elm Street sequel yet?
Oh,
The
we did a
se-
whole
oh.
series. We've
I
done
thought you meant
all of the
Nightmare
Nightmare
Before
on Elm Street.
Christmas, and I was like, what are you talking about? We did on our Patreon. We'll go through like franchises.
Oh,
So we
smart.
did all of the Nightmare, and that Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was definitely the gayest of
The
the
gayest
Nightmare on
of
Elm
that
Street
franchise.
movies,
Oh, absolutely.
and it would probably do very well on the overall scoring system, I would assume.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
who
think,
knows?
I
Maybe
think it would
maybe
do
in a
really
year or
well.
so we'll let someone bring it into the main feed, as it were.
Ooh, yes.
It does have a very surprising male scream queen in it. So,
One of the only.
yeah, exactly.
Have there been any other movies that you haven't gotten to yet that you're itching for?
I would both of the Mamma Mia's.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I love a Mamma.
Oh my
I'm not as
gosh.
well versed in musicals as John is. I'm more like I like an action, dumb sci-fi movie more than he does probably. But I love this probably betrays my lack of musical knowledge in that Mamma Mia, maybe 2 even is my favorite musical.
I actually think 2 is better than 1.
Could be.
Ooh.
You got
Well, it's got
Cher.
Cher.
Many
in
things.
it.
That's true.
I always love that moment. I still think about whenever I need a giggle when Cher's on the top of the staircase and goes, "Oh well, there's like Carl. You know, you got to meet the guy who owns the property." And she turns around, and sees him. It's Andy Garcia, and she goes, "Fernando." And then the music starts.
And you're like, yes,
it's happening so quickly. It's great.
Well, who would be like your dream guest for Mamma Mia if you did that?
Cher.
Broke it down. Well, yes.
Can't
sure,
get Cher.
Cher would be a good one.
One of the ABBAs?
I'd accept you. One of the ABBAs, yes. Mr. or Mrs. ABBA would be great.
Mr. or Mrs. or Mrs. ABBA.
Yes,
Exactly.
that'd be fun.
And you talked about the wheel too. The wheels categories are they run the gambit because gambit.
They run the gamut.
Words.
You take it. It's a gambit on how well you'll do. I think like Rocky Horror, as I recall, you guys did very well. Like the goddess of the wheel was smiling upon you.
Honestly, we got really, really lucky with our wheel categories.
I think we got like fancy footwork or choreography.
I can tell you exactly what they are if you really want to. You got.
Oh my gosh!
I just happen to have the spreadsheet right up in front of me. You got breath acting. Did very well in breath acting. Titular theme song.
Oh me, yeah. There you go.
We had an argument that there couldn't be really a theme song.
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty loose. These are like we just score them on scales of 0 to 100, so it's not a yes or no. You know what I mean?
Right, it's not just a binary.
And if there's anything that Rocky Horror loves, it's wiggle room.
Yes, and the non-binary.
Indeed.
It also got Rye Smiles and potential to be a musical. So there you go.
Oh wow, yes.
But you guys
lucky.
added. I love the
Absolutely.
categories. You guys added ability to be shadow cast, and I thought
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
such a fun. I never would have thought of that in a million
you.
years. I think it's such a great. Because that's part of what makes especially like a B movie. Not that Rocky Horror is a B movie. I don't know if that's a slur.
No.
It is 100%.
Mark, how dare you?
I think it's a compliment.
Showing your
A
privilege.
little bit.
Showing your privilege. Okay.
But like a cult film, like part of the fun is like screaming at it or like watching it with a group of people. And like I feel like shadow casting is like the ultimate expression of like a communal watch.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna like communal watch Nomadland, no matter how good it is. It's not one you're like, oh, get it. We're all watching Nomadland. Get in here. You know what I mean? It's not like the.
Get your props. Dress up.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we wanted to add to the wheel, and then like there are so many movies that we also would love to shadow cast and have an excuse to get the whole wardrobe for a character and be able
What
to
if you could do? If coming out of this, you get to do any movie to shadow cast, what would be your choice?
Grease.
Ooh,
Grease is a good one.
that's a good one.
Has there ever been like a shadow where they do like a scene from like 8 movies and like just do 8 different like shadow casts, like a shadow cast like festival in 2 hours?
That's a great idea.
Mark, you are such an idea man.
He keeps just pitching why he needs to be on our cast. And
I
why
just want
he
to
needs
produce.
do
I don't
that.
need to be.
He doesn't want to do. Yeah.
I don't need to do it. I just want to
someone else
criticize
do.
when
You're
it's
the
not
idea
done
person.
correctly.
You get underlings.
You're the executive
carry it
producer
out.
that lives in the other state.
Yeah.
Or the other county.
Right.
It's just one county up. It's fine.
Right.
But I would want to do The Shining just because
Interesting.
it gets a kind of regular screening at our normal at our art house
gotcha.
theater that we perform at.
So the
And-
infrastructure's already there. Gotcha.
Exactly. And I think it's a limited enough cast that you can just even maybe cast Wendy, Jack, and Danny. And then just start shadow casting at the time that they all become locked in. Mm-hmm. Oh, how tense to sit in that.
Is that how it's like? You
audience.
wait like 30. You don't shadow casting from the beginning, or
I mean, you don't
Is it just
have
for
to.
The
There's
Shining
no
you would?
rules.
okay?
There's no rules.
Good to know.
You can shadow cast however you want to shadow cast. Because I know we have friends up in LA, Sins of the Flesh, at the New Art, who do Hedwig and the Angry Inch every
Oh, I
year.
love
And they
that
don't
movie.
do
Okay.
every single scene. They will
really?
pop in and out. Yeah.
We
They
get
do a
tired.
majority of the movie, but it's hard to do some of the transitions or some of the ways that like the camera is angled. It's just not conducive.
And the costume changes are kind
Yeah.
of quick, yeah. And I think that's kind of what's made it so culty, is that it is choose your own adventure, and it is choose the level of participation you would like to bring. And as long as you're there, that's cool.
Yeah, that seems to like fit into like really well with Rocky Horror as well, and that it's sort of like, yeah, whatever. Be as freaky as you want to be.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we talked to you guys a little bit about your own histories with Rocky Horror on our episode. But okay, so John, you've seen it before a couple of times.
I think I had the VHS tape like in like high school or something like that. I saw it live. I saw like a screening in New York once, but it was not ideal in that I went with my sister and her then boyfriend, now husband, and he does not drink, and I was just getting over the flu, so I was fine, but I was still taking like antibiotics, so I couldn't drink. And so my sister was like, well, if you two aren't drinking, I'm not going to drink. So it was like 3 sober people in their late 20s and a whole bunch of like, you know, like, and we
At
were just
midnight?
like, what are we doing? Yeah, exactly. It was like, what is the point of this?
If you're on antibiotics, you should not be out past midnight.
Well, I was at the end of my cycle, Mark, you know, and so that was what I said. But I saw the revival on Broadway that they did, which is not the same thing. But yeah, I mean, like I definitely have been familiar with the show, and I think it's fun.
Are there differences between the Broadway show and the movie?
I mean,
not substantially.
It's
In
basically
the-
the same thing.
In the original iteration of the stage show, there are big differences. But in the new iteration of the stage show, it's pretty much just
it's
the
pretty
movie.
heavily influenced.
Yeah, it's just kind of the movie on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it started as a stage show, became a movie, but then the movie became so iconic that like they've sort of been like, all right, well now let's make the stage show like the movie because that's what everyone's expecting.
Exactly.
I think there's only one song that is not in the movie that was in the stage show. And what was very funny is like throughout the whole show there were people, you know, playing along, which they were, you know, encouraged to do. But then during that one number, everyone was just quiet and sat there and we're like, we don't know what to say here.
Yeah.
We're not sure how to interact with this ballad that Brad has.
This is off-putting.
This is very, I'm not...
I guess I'll go to the bathroom.
Brad, why are you making me
good
feel
intermission.
emotions? Please stop.
Yeah. No one asked for this, Brad.
He was in his boxers. We were okay with it.
Oh,
It was
I
a
see.
respectful, you know...
Although I will say once in a while, which is the Brad cut song from the movie, is one of my... It's probably my favorite number from the show. And they did film it for the movie, but it was cut. If you guys want the YouTube video, we can send it over.
What?
You have access to this YouTube,
What?
you say? When you guys are you guys singing along or lip syncing, or do people like sing? Like when you're shadow cut, do they turn down the movie and then you guys do all the audio?
No.
Well,
So-
it depends, because there are some shadowcasts that are more of a blend of musical theater,
that's
and
fun.
they'll mic their performers, and they will do a more of a live show with the movie playing in the background. Our cast is more like lip syncing.
That's fun.
I mean,
Okay.
I talk out loud, but I don't like try and beat the movie's audio. It's just kind of like it looks more natural for me to
Yes.
actually say the words instead of just pretend to say them.
Has anyone ever shadowcast a Muppet movie?
Oh my god!
Mark these ideas.
Oh,
You're just a fountain of them.
I
You
mean,
know, it's either Muppets or Cats. I think either one you got to hit on your hands.
Well, you know, we've joked about that. It's like you have to get trained ballerinas and
Oh, no,
Do
you
you?
don't. No one's going to do a midnight screening of Cats for like
for
impeccable
the technique.
dancing. Yeah.
To be like, their feet were all pointed when they should be. Well done.
Everyone's
I
going to be
applaud your
stoned out of their
ABT training.
minds. You kidding? Just the fact that it's happening is going to be exciting enough.
that's so funny. Yeah, and doing just terrible interpretations of the choreography.
Have
Shadow
you guys ever
Cats, yeah.
gotten like rude feedback from audience members? I can't imagine
Yes.
that. Really?
yeah. People are.
Well, it's like, you know, if you never have seen it, and then you walk into the theater house and there are people just screaming obscenities around you for almost 2 hours straight.
And that's not what you were expecting to happen.
Yeah, it's like...
Well, that's on you.
I feel like
you're
that's
going to
on
Rocky
them.
Horror and you're like, what? It's interactive?
I can't
Wasn't
hear
mentioned
the
on IMDb.
Isn't there a non-interactive option?
Right.
Yeah, they're called a matinee.
Yeah, or the at-home viewing. Just watch it. It's a 45-year-old movie. Watch it at home. But then, Mark, you'd said that you hadn't seen it in
thought I had
its
seen it, but then I ended up watching it for the podcast, and I realized, I don't think I've seen this entire thing, because the last hour I had no memory of whatsoever.
I mean, I think that's fairly common, though.
I think that's
that's
most
true.
people's experiences.
Well, because you always pick up on Sweet Transvestite and time, it appears in so much of other pop culture, you know what I mean? But I feel towards the end, all that stuff is a little less well known. So I hadn't really, I knew Time Warp really well, the song.
You've been to some weddings, yeah.
I've been to some weddings. But that was about it. My Rocky Horror fandom was very low, I guess I would say.
Sure. And then when you watched it, were you had you, I don't know, missed it? Had you been I should have watched this 10 years ago? Or were you
16-year-old Mark really should have seen this.
I don't know.
Made such a difference.
It did make me think this would have been fun to see Shadowcat. I feel that's the ideal way to watch it, is the Shadow. It did make me think that would be a fun thing to do when this is all over, is just go see just check it off the list,
Right. Just do a mini road trip down to Orange County and come to our drive-in.
That'd be so fun.
That'd be great.
We
Yeah.
do
What
it
do you do
every
in the
month.
drive-in? Do people honk at you when they're you're doing a good job?
We are doing the pre-show as best as we would if we were in the theater, and then folks are participating by honking in their cars
Or flashing their headlights.
Yeah, and we're not doing the full performance out in front of the screen during the movie. But people still
Yell
it's you
callbacks
build it and they will come. People are just so excited that there's a venue offering it again, that it's and if you roll your windows down, you can hear people in the back that are yelling still through their car windows,
Wow.
the callbacks and stuff.
It seems this will never die. This will just there's new generations discovering it all. It's almost is it a musical theater right up? What is the? Where are you guys coming from?
Who made you?
And how can I make them stop?
How are you first exposed to it? I guess I would want to know.
Well, it's I think you got it.
Well, I've definitely told this story on our show before, so if you've heard it before, you can skip forward. But I was...
you haven't heard my reaction to it and interjecting.
Yeah.
I was, I think, 11 or 12, and one of my best friends growing up, her older brother was gay and did, very mild drag because he was in high school still, but was very interested in this kind of counterculture stuff. And so we had a sleepover, and her brother was like, hey, you small children, it's movie time. We're going to watch a triple feature. And I watched Rocky Horror, Hedwig, and Party Monster all in the same night.
He did the work.
Yeah. He was like, if you weren't gay before, it's here now. Well,
That's
you're
a great
welcome.
triple feature.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. And then, just kind of I'd heard the soundtrack before that, and I knew Time Warp because everyone does.
Yeah.
And I just kind of caught the bug after that and was just totally into Rocky Horror. And when I moved out to Long Beach to go to college, I was in the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, and we did basically a little field trip to Rocky Horror. And I was headhunted there, and they were like, "You are our new Columbia. Welcome to cast." And
Wow.
I was like, "What? Hello?"
Plucked from
It was
obscurity.
offer only? You didn't have to audition?
What?
No, they just I didn't even put in an application. They literally, I showed up the next week. This was after I'd been going for maybe about a month, every single weekend. And I showed up one week and all the cast members started coming up to me and going, "Oh my gosh, congratulations, welcome to cast." And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Because at that point, like, stop paying admission. Like, if you're coming weekly for more than a month, just join cast. Just
saving money.
Yeah, save your $15 and help us on tech or whatever. I get that.
Was that like a goal of yours? Like when you were in the audience, like going for a month, did you see, oh, I want to be doing that?
I mean, it wasn't really anything that I was like aiming for, but once it was an option to me, I was like, cool, great. And then now 10 years later, I'm still doing it. And I'm the cast lead on my cast down in Santa Ana.
And it's just like bigger than that too.
Yeah.
It's gotten so much bigger than that.
It causes you to build like a completely new family. It's just such a insane, crazy, supportive community.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it sounds like an improv school theater.
yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's a.
Like, you keep coming, so all right.
I keep picturing you guys like after a show all going to like IHOP and like 10 people
Literally.
in one booth.
Oh, Norms? Oh, Denny's?
Or Norms, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Splitting
you
one
mean
basket
what we
of
literally
fries.
did
Yeah.
all the time? We, back when I was on Midnight Insanity, I don't know if they still kept this tradition up before quarantine, but we used to go to Harbor House in Sunset Beach after every show. So it was about a 20-minute drive at like 3:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
And
No traffic, which is so nice.
it was beautiful, and you drove down the one, and it was great. But we would go, and all of us would order just the most garbage food on the face of the planet. Some of us would get dinner, some of us would get breakfast. Some of us would
you're leaving at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, some of us would literally just get like ice cream. And my friend CJ, who I know listens to this show, hi CJ, I'm telling this story, walks in, sits down, and goes, "I would like a plate of whipped cream, please." And they brought him a gigantic plate, just piled high with whipped cream and then like maraschino cherries on top. And
That
CJ
waitress,
has-
I want to see the scene of that waitress in the back going, "Oh, you want whipped cream? You want a plate of whipped cream? CJ, is that what you just ordered? Okay,
I'll
here
give
you go.
whipped cream. Here's your whipped cream.
The last time you ordered this, CJ."
CJ has diabetes.
I would assume so.
So we now refer to that as the night of diabeteria.
Okay, I know where this story ends.
And that's all I'm gonna say from here.
So the community is great.
So many memories.
Honestly.
But yeah, you got the nail on the head. It's like a group of just really funny people that I don't know if it's that we didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
Or
That didn't hurt. Sure.
it also was like I think it's a rite of passage thing of like, I don't know. When I was growing up, I remember seeing the VHS like cover at the rental store.
Sure.
And like seeing the lips, seeing Tim Curry sitting in the lips and them in the floor show across the front. And I don't know if I was like having a time warp then, but like I had to have been 3 or 4 years old. And I just had such a vivid memory of looking at this VHS cover and having no idea what it was, but reading horror and being like, that's a scary movie. Oh no.
But there's glitter.
Exactly. And I was confused because I was like, there's lips and like...
And lingerie.
I was intrigued, to say the least. And I didn't see it until I was out of probably graduating high school in its entirety. And they didn't have regular screenings in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They still don't.
Huh.
And when I finally saw it in the art house theater that I grew up going to, it was just like so transformative. I hadn't seen something so funny and so strange, and I had so many questions leaving the movie that I just had to see it another time. Like, I was instantly hooked. I wanted to know all of the songs. I wanted to learn the characters. And then as soon as there was like a Shadowcast available, I was like, make me a Transylvanian. I want to do it. I need to. I just want to be there doing it. Mm-hmm. And then when I moved out to California, I didn't start performing until like 3 or 4 or 5 years after I moved out here. But it was just, I needed to like get the confidence to, I don't know. I had the stigma attached to it too. I was like, you have to be a burlesque performer, or you have to be
gotcha.
Like,
you have to be a professional because it's Southern California, so it's
just like,
yes,
there's union rules involved. I was actually hearing you talk about it now. I was wondering if it was like a TGI Fridays, where it's like, well, I worked at a TGI Fridays in my hometown in New Jersey, and so now I'm moving to Chicago. Can I just go to that TGI Fridays?
I already have the vest.
Yeah, exactly. Got some flair.
Yeah, I don't think I was ready to own how much I loved it yet. Like,
sure.
I was working at Disneyland at the time, and I just had so many, I was really dealing with my perception of myself and like other people's perception of me. And I was just like, yeah, I casually like Rocky Horror. Like, yeah, I casually go see it a couple times a month, you know, casually. And then finally it was just, I went to Chaos in Santa Ana after going to Midnight Insanity for a few years, and I just was like floored by the level of talent with the cast. Like, we have performers who've been doing shadow casting for fucking 25 years. Like,
wow.
Try like 35 to 40. I think I think it's Ray's 40th year this year.
Wow.
And that's like, that's insane. That's just, I had so much appreciation for them that I again was just like, okay, put me in, coach. I'll do Transylvanian. I'll do whatever. I just want to be a part of it again. And, you know, everything has been just like wonderful in my life since I like found this
everything.
Yeah, you know, everything except for the obvious.
There we go. It kind of reminds me of, like, we were talking about how we like structure. It does kind of like, it's like it's like you're first taking your baby steps into like performance or like expressing yourself in like a new kind of, it does kind of like provide you with like, well, there's like an established movie to work off of, you know what I mean? Like, it like kind of, but what do you want to be within that is like entirely up to you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so expressive. I had no idea how expressive it is as an art form, and like, it runs the gamut like of talents. Like, you have people who build their entire costumes from scratch and are insanely talented seamstresses and seamstressers.
Definitely a word.
It also seems like a lot like, it's reminding me of like horoscopes. Like, oh, you thought you were Columbia, but it turns out you're
a Magenta Rising.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, honestly,
so good.
Yes.
Who's your sun, moon, and rising per Rocky Horror? That I'm gonna start asking that.
She thinks she's Frankenberger, but we all know.
She's riffraff on a good day, is what she is.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was going to ask you guys, because would you have ever been interested in shadow casting? Was that ever something that
I think I definitely would have, if there was like, if it was, if I had access to it like in high school, or something like that. I definitely could have like drank the Kool-Aid, as it were.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, it seems like, and like there's this theater space here in LA, which is, you know, not operating right now, called Rockwell, that would do Rocky Horror like usually on like New Year's Eve, and I, you know, went and saw it once or twice, and it seems like one of those shows, like, it's so much fun to be in, and I'm sure like in a bad production, in the audience you're like, well, I'm glad they're having fun, but it definitely does seem like, oh, this is such a crazy fun show, like to be in it would just be a hoot, you know what I mean? Like, it would be a good time, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could do it for 40 years. But it definitely seems like it would be fun to do.
Who do you think you'd want to be, John?
You stole my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I think like when I was younger, I definitely like thought like Riff Raff was. I mean, like of course Frank, but but that's also like such a mountain. It's like sure, I'd like to play Hamlet. You know, it's like well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if you think so. I mean, I think there's probably fun to be had in anything. Like I think even like a Dr. Scott. I mean, at this point, I think that would be fun, or like the narrator.
Yes, you would make an excellent Dr. Scott or Krim.
How about you, Mark?
I'd want to be whoever I like talking. You know what I mean? So like I don't know if who can like. I want to like
be the narrator.
I want to like make fun of the audience. You know?
Yeah, you can be in the audience making callbacks.
You can do pre-show. Just scream at people on the microphone.
Sit down, shut up, like that kind of thing.
Who's a virgin? No, you're not.
No, you're not, slut. Maybe that.
On Broadway, the narrator was Dick Cavett. You would be great at that.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. I've been told I'm Cavett-esque.
Yes, many times.
But you wouldn't put on the fishnets? You wouldn't want to be Frankenfurter?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I express myself when I'm shouting. I don't know. I don't feel like, I don't know.
Fishnets are just shouts for your legs.
I don't know. Like I thought about, I don't know if I feel like I'm pretty like expressive as is, so I don't feel like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We're stealing that, by the way. That's our new tagline for our show is fishnets are just screaming for your legs.
I will say this. I never thought I'd be into drag, and I'm still not someone who does drag, but I was cast as a female role as Miranda Priestley in a parody of Devil Wears Prada, and I had to wear heels for that. And I was like, oh, I get why women wear heels. Because they make you feel so powerful, and they make your legs and your ass look great.
Yeah.
I mean, they kill your feet if you wear them for too long. Mm-hmm. I think if you like got used to it, you'd be like, this is fun. I don't predict you being like, I have come alive now that I'm in drag. But I could see you being like, sure, why not?
You know, but I think I'd be pretty much the same
Easter
person.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, just a few inches taller.
Yeah, just a few inches taller, maybe a few boas, you know.
Exactly.
You can never have too many boas. We are definitely both fans of boas.
We're drowning in boas over there.
Oh, yes.
But that's so funny because I always am curious if people have ever had like the secret desire to shadowcast, because so many people come as voyeurs to the Rocky Horror Picture Show and will come for years and years and years and years, and it always crosses my mind if they ever considered it, you know?
Well, and they come for years and years and years, and they don't dress up either. They're just, normal people clothes. Mm-hmm. No lingerie, no fishnets.
They're the freaks.
Sit in the back of the theater and watch it week after week or month after month, every single show for years. And I'm like, I know your name. I know how many children you have. Like, this is how long I've known you. And you're
never,
basically
like,
on the cast.
after they've had their plate of whipped cream, been like, what are you getting out of this?
Diabetes,
yes. What's going on here?
But I guess every performance must be different.
Yes. You can see 50 different Janets, and every single one of them is going to be different.
Yeah, and then we also will cast randomly, completely randomly, based on who is available and willing to perform. Like, it's on a volunteer basis, and it's really fun because you can get, like, newbies with veterans, and then you can get, like, all-star casts sometimes. You can get, like, it really, you can see a different show every single time, and then that's fun because then you're kind of hoping for, like, your favorite Frank or your favorite Janet to be performing.
And sometimes you'll be like, oh, that's my favorite Brad, but what? He's doing Rocky tonight.
Yeah.
Are there ever, like, Frankenfurter, like, face-offs? Like, you got a Frankenfurter for your life?
Mark!
We are now!
Idea.
I mean, just like a turn. I love a tournament.
We just posted a photo from one of our
yes.
shadow casts that's 4 Frankenfurters during the kick line at the end of the movie. So you've got Rocky, you've got Columbia, then you have 4 Frankenfurters, and then Janet and Brad.
I mean, it should feel like you're on acid, even if you're not. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. So then I guess this is more for John since he had seen it when he was younger.
Okay.
Take a seat, Mark. Have some water. You seem dehydrated.
Yeah, ask me what the 70s were like.
My question was, what did you think of it when it came out in the late 70s? That was literally
you were fresh out of college.
My brain.
I'd actually just finished grad school, and I mean, I was like, it was like an established thing by the time like I had found it, so it wasn't like, it didn't feel like a discovery, and you know what I mean, like in that way that I think you're. Yeah. I mean, you know, it was like a thing in high school where it's like I'd heard of it, I knew Time Warp, and I knew that there was this song, and I'm sure I'd seen like images of it.
Your grandkids told you about it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, Grandpa.
Because you were never young. You were the grandpa friend.
Exactly,
right? Yeah. But was it like, did it feel taboo? Did it feel like when you went, was it like, ooh, I don't know if I want my parents to know I'm going to this, or like,
yeah, actually, like now that I'm remembering, there was a time in high school where a bunch of friends of mine and I went to go see it somewhere, but there wasn't enough audience, so they didn't show the movie. And I remember it was sort of like that. I mean, to me, it feels like such a musical, like theater kid in high school, just being like, we're doing something that's like edgy and like weird, and they're like, we don't want our parents to know, but I'm sure if they found out, they'd have been like, oh, how was it? You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't have actually cared. But it felt transgressive, and yet also sort of not that it felt safe. I don't know. It's like it was like the sense of like a naughtiness, and like I wasn't entirely sure like what was going to happen or what the show was about. I knew like Time Warp was in it. I knew that was a fun song, and I do think like the songs in the show are overall really fun. Like I think none of them are like amazing, but they're all like delightful. They go by pretty quickly, so they're fun. So even if you don't like them that much, you're like, well, it's over.
Yeah. Or you get like a different opportunity with every song because they kind of change styles.
Yes, absolutely.
That you get back into it. If like that last number didn't sell you, like, oh well, at least
that's right. Another one will come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also like this, like the in between the songs goes by pretty quick, so it's not like it's not like a super long book scene where you're like, okay, we get all this backstory you got to tell us. It's just like, oh, and now we're dancing. Oh, and now it's a transvestite. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think it was sort of like this fun, weird, cool thing that maybe wasn't as like cool or edgy as it thinks it is, but like it's a great sort of like. It's almost like the what's that, like the play school, like my first transgressive thing, you know what I mean? Piece of media.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny. Market it and box it.
Right. Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, because since you guys are cult outsiders, as it were.
Thank you.
I'm curious what you think of it from the outside of like the movie's fan base and its extended interactivity, and the fact that it's lasted so long, the fact that its history is almost 50 years old.
Well, one of the things I remember my sister and brother-in-law talking about that night we saw it was that, like, yes, there were all the classics like asshole, slut, and all that stuff, but there were also so many people who you could tell were like trying to have their own, like totally fresh, new take, and they would shout out things, but a lot of them were like, so long and convoluted. They would be like, hey, bro, what happened to the thing? Did you go to the store and do this and buy the thing and da-da-da? And you'd be like, what just happened?
That person's been working on that for a week.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, you need to take another pass at that, buddy. It's too wordy. It's far too dense for it to land. Like, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, like, people trying too hard. But it sort of, like, makes sense. I mean, it wasn't that guy, but imagine like if you've done this for 40 years, you'd be like, I just got to say something different. I need something, you know.
Yeah. I need a new punchline.
Some new idea, just a different idea. I don't care.
I think it's like a great entry point for like into like larger queer weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the reason it lasts is just I don't know. I think because it does have that live experience. Like, I don't know. There's not a lot of other cult movies that have like get shown theatrically.
That like exist in this, like it's like other movies that do even like there's no movie that it's so like a part of its like like it not story but like it's iconography, like it is so much a part of it, like
culture.
Like there are definitely you know, like there are people who do things for like Showgirls or like other movies and stuff like that where you have interactivity and sort of shadowcasting stuff, but nothing that's so like just like baked into it. As
like The Room had it for like a few years, like in LA, like they showed it for like 10 years maybe. But like my parents have no idea what The Room is, but they probably know what Rocky Horror is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think any like musicals, that's sort of like one of the benefits they have is that you can like take numbers out and sort of like listen to them. Like even your favorite movie,
you're not
gonna
that,
like
John?
You're not gonna like sit and listen to like a scene from your favorite movie. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna just have it in the background. So like musicals have that ability to be like, oh, this is sort of playing as you're cleaning or something like that, or you know, just sort of like you can just hum them to yourselves in the way that you wouldn't with just like something that's not musical.
You're not gonna hum Birdemic.
No. I mean, I'll choreograph a dream ballet to Birdemic, and I have.
Thank you.
Cut to me mopping my apartment to Mr. Mistopheles.
Sure. Well, I never.
Well, you brought up a really good point, Mark, that
Thank you.
Kind of.
Don't. Oh, no, you forget it. His head's too big now.
Did you hear that, John?
Yes, Mark, I heard it. You've been complimented. Oh, boy.
We'll make it a challenge. We'll see who gets the most compliments by the
Oh, no.
This is our scoring system.
But you mentioned that it's like a good gateway movie into more queer cinema and like even edgier queer cinema. Like it's nowhere near Divine or John Waters level of
correct.
Like
that's like Female Trouble. You know, Pink Flamingos are still like, I would not show my parents those. You know, they are still shocking.
Yeah.
I was alone watching Female Trouble going, oh my God, you know, but like having the time of my life. But they still have like this power of like, they're doing things in those movies from like 50 years ago that still aren't done to like, even like Jackass looks tame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just don't know what the history is of the John Waters movies in the 70s, because like people weren't going, it was a midnight thing, but it wasn't to the level of Rocky Horror where people were like, I need to look like the person on screen.
Or there's something about like where like I want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Which I don't know. It's something I still think it all goes back to that. I think I said this when you guys were on ours. It goes back to like the time warp when you see all the Transylvanians and it's just people of all stripes. You know?
Yes.
That it's just kind of like everyone's welcome.
Well, and also I would never want to be a part of a John Waters movie.
It depends which one.
I feel like I'd want to go to the after party of filming.
Yes.
Ooh,
I don't know if I'd want to end up on camera. But also, like, but Rocky Horror, like, even, like, the tagline or, like, the big, like, one of the big, it's like, don't dream it, be it. Like, it's saying, like, the movie is saying to you, like, go for it. Like, don't just stand there and watch, be a part of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We also, on your episode, you brought up the, like, communal elements of watching the movie in a theater with other people, and I just don't know if it was like a perfect storm of timing and opportunity, you know, where if like if Rocky Horror came out now where we have more gay establishments, more just general acceptance.
Yeah, I don't know that it would have the same impact that it did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it definitely like took like transgressive ideas and put them in this sort of like fun musical. So it sort of like allowed people to like really be like, oh, you can be something different. You know what I mean? Like it was a time where like people were starting to like see that as an idea in a way that now we're just like, yeah, call yourself whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's more of a sense of like, yeah, there's no box you have to fit into. And I feel like then there was more this idea of like, oh wait, there are other possibilities, and that's what that movie sort of like opens up.
I feel like now the only like expected, like if you go to the movies and want like a communal experience, it's like you gotta see like an Avengers movie like opening weekend. Like when I saw like Avengers Endgame, people were like losing their minds, and that was so fun. Or also, but then the other ones I like are the ones you don't expect to be communal. And I think John was there. We went and saw Greta, which is like this like kind of schlocky but fun thriller where like an older woman is like basically stalking Chloe Grace Moretz. But towards the end, like the last half hour, people were like, are we all seeing this? You know, like, and people just started openly like laughing, and like those moments to me, like I really miss those like organic where they just kind of like the whole audience agrees like this is funny, right?
We're like we're all on the same page here,
right? And like as soon as one person makes a crack and the whole audience laughs in a serious movie, you're like, all right, we are in this.
Okay, all right.
I'm in the right theater.
Yes.
We bought the same ticket.
Right?
Okay, let's do this.
And those moments like where it comes like organically are like so precious, and like I really miss those moments.
Absolutely. I miss going to movie theaters so much. I just think about it sometimes and make myself a little sad because it's like, man, I did that like a lot. And I'm thankful that I did that as often as I did pre-lockdown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just know how badly I want to get back to it. And I need new stuff. I'm like, I feel like everything on Netflix is the same.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm ready for like new movies again, which is quite contradictory to me obsessing over a movie.
Well, there's a balance. You know, it's all part of the healthy diet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you have your standard breakfast, but lunch and dinner, you want to play around.
Yes.
Lunch and dinner, you play around, Joe?
Well, it depends on the day, I guess.
Exactly.
She says all of this, and yet I have a question for you, Haley. Have you watched Jaws yet?
She's not sure.
The answer is no. She still hasn't seen Jaws.
It's on my list.
You gotta watch.
Sure. Jaws is great.
Because there are a couple of movies that I've been like purposefully waiting to make final like thesis comparisons to for our last few episodes.
And Jaws did come out the same summer that Rocky Horror did.
That's
so there's
that's quite a summer.
Yeah.
It would be remiss if I didn't point out that the day that we're recording this is Barry Bostwick's birthday.
It is.
I was like, do you think there's an element where like the communal aspect has like maybe eclipsed the movie itself?
Yes and no. I think it's like without it, the movie would not be.
It wouldn't have survived this long.
At all. No. It's hard because it's also part of the magic of it present day. Like, you have to have some level of appreciation for the text to be a believable shadowcast performer, or to come up with callbacks that are clever as opposed to just noise.
Right.
Like, I always tell people they need to see it. If they've never seen it before, they need to see it first with the shadowcast. They need to find some theater nearby. If it's playing, they need to see it there. Again, home alone with the subtitles on, so you can get all of the
subtleties,
in-jokes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then go back again a third time so you can get why people are laughing at certain points, why it matters that Frank has this arc that he does, because he's such a villain and we end up rooting for him and are sad that he dies.
Yes.
And that we have to watch it. Like, we're like, oh no, what? No, I didn't want these people to die. And then that ends up being part of why you want to watch it again. So it's also, the movie is great.
So you want people to watch Rocky Horror 3 times before you watch Jaws once.
Yes.
Interesting.
You called me, you read me for filth. That's exactly the kind of person I am. Oh, man.
I'm really excited for this new generation that is discovering Rocky Horror for the first time during quarantine, because there's a ton of really young kids who are watching it for the first time and really getting into it. And I see them posting on Instagram and
like cosplay.
Yeah, doing cosplay and making like TikToks and stuff with the audio from the movie. And it's I can't wait until shadow casting is a thing again and we can get this fresh new generation of folks to join.
I'm curious hearing you say that, like, in all your years shadow casting, like, do you notice any differences in either, like, the kind of performers who are doing the shadow cast, like, how people approach it, or even, like, the audience? Like, have you seen any sort of, like, evolution or change in your time with Rocky Horror?
I know that
it comes in waves.
I know that this is gonna sound. I know that we've made this comparison of, is this a thing or am I just getting older? But I really do feel like the people who are performing are just getting younger and younger. Like when I first joined, most of the cast was in their like
late 20s.
Mid to late 20s, if not in their 30s. And now a ton of my cast members are freshly 18 and like
maybe
the oldest ones are like 24.
Wow.
Like it really has,
not including us.
Yeah. We're the moms.
the babies, like that fresh group are like, yeah, and it's wild because they have such a fresh appreciation of like, yeah, they're, especially right now, they have the time to sit and watch the movie as many times as they want.
Yeah.
And to hone the skills of like, I'm going to create a costume and I'm going to make sure it's screen accurate because that's important to me or whatever.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, I also think there's something too about like now because everyone has access to these things. Like imagine like in the 70s, like seeing it on the weekends and like you can't then go rent it or you can't go look up anything online. You can just be like, what did you remember? And like try to like hold on to those memories and those feelings and sensations. Like it's such a different thing where now you could be like, all right, I can see like a kid, you know, like someone now discovered and can be like, I can now go watch YouTube videos of all these different productions or all these different interpretations. And it's just like they have such different resources available to them that it's so like interesting. Like that's so much a part of how they relate to it differently.
Yes, that's such a good point you make because I think about that too. It blows my mind because that's also part of like how shadow casting has evolved. Like you would have rudimentary recreations of like, well, Janet we know is wearing a pink dress, so we're gonna find the closest pink dress we can remember. I think it has buttons down the middle,
you know, stuff like that.
and then you would go and you would watch the movie and you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna make these alterations so it's a little bit closer to what it looks like for next week's viewing. Like yeah, it totally blows my mind that like I was so lucky to be able to just like search online and be like, Janet shadow cast costumes, Google, find it for me. And everything was available. Someone else had done all of the work to like, this is the kind of barrette you need and the kind of bra you need and the whatever.
Etsy, make it for me. Go.
Yes.
How does one like retire? Like, is there like a ceremony?
You burn your fishnets.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very dramatic.
I mean,
honestly, yeah.
I have a few friends who retired after like, you know, a decade or so of doing Rocky Horror, and they usually kind of have like a big blowout show where it's like, so-and-so's last show, come see them in their final performance, and it's like, you know, big thing.
All of their cast,
yeah,
whoever they want to perform with, and yeah, it's really wonderful.
Because like we said, it's like a family. And so we always make the joke that like you never really retire from Rocky Horror. Like you're going to come back and do it again.
As long as you still have your costumes, I don't believe that you're not coming back.
Like you may not rejoin the cast, but you're going to perform again eventually.
Yeah. Well, I had a question just about the movie. Do you guys have a favorite like scene or favorite moment or favorite song?
I do listen to Time Warp like at least once a month. That's probably like pathetic to you guys, but
is it scheduled? You're like, no, it just all right, the third Thursday of the month, time for Time Warp.
I listen for work. I'm listening to Spotify all day, and like it is in one of my it's on my favorite songs playlist. I think it might be on a workout playlist too. Thank you very much.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think like Time Warp just always, I don't know, it is like, again, like just hearing the big cast of all the different voices, just that aspect of Time Warp always makes, when they're all saying, let's do the Time Warp, that part just makes me happy.
Yeah.
You love instructions in a song.
I love a Macarena. I love
The Hustle.
Yeah.
If you ever get tired of the film soundtrack, may I recommend the Roxy soundtrack, which is the stage production. It's phenomenal.
With Tim Curry, still Tim Curry.
Yeah.
I did see on Spotify today there is the Glee version. Should I look into that?
No, you should avoid that. Avoid that at all costs. How dare you? You knew the answer to that question when
Did
you asked.
I?
End your Spotify
You did.
subscription
You absolutely
now.
did. You were looking to start trouble, and you
Wouldn't
know
that
it.
be fun? One shot I could just show the Glee episode of Rocky Horror and like really fuck with your audience.
That'd be a great April Fool's Day show.
I made the joke, I think it was last year or the year before, that for our April Fool's show I wanted to do the Fox remake.
Oh, that was not good.
No, it was bad.
Or just do Rocky, the boxing movie.
Yes!
That's funny.
That's
You have
hilarious.
so many good ideas. I'm just going to have to credit you for all of them. I'm going to steal them and I'll credit them.
All right.
That's all
I
he
won't
wants.
follow up, don't worry.
What about you, John?
I think there's I really like Tim Curry, the I'm Going Home, like his like big farewell. There's something so like romantic and sort of like grand about it that I really I think it's sort of fun to act out maybe alone late at night to my mirror with my heels. Yes, with my Miranda Priestley heels, which I haven't gotten rid of yet.
Yeah, that's so what I always feel so emotional watching I'm Going Home, and I always hope that there's a different ending. Like I know how it's gonna end.
You know that mansion's going up in the air, the castle.
What do you want to have happen?
But
I have like my own idea of like what would be the perfect sequel to Rocky Horror. Like,
and it's not shock treatment.
That plays into it. I do think shock treatment is either the same universe with Cosmo and Nation are Riff and Magenta just with alias names, or it's alternate universe happening at the same time, maybe. But okay, so this is how I picture it. Janet and Dr. Scott and Brad are like in the rubble. And since they all have such terrible communication skills, they all think they know the right way back to the road or to Dr. Scott's castle. So they spend like the first third of the movie arguing about like which direction they should take and then also the events of the night. And like that's where you find out that Brad and Dr. Scott set Janet up and that it was all a ploy to go explore the rival scientist's castle. And then right when they find that out, once it's like it blows her mind, they realize that they've walked in a circle and they're back at the castle. And
so we're rethinking everything we thought we knew about the first movie.
Well, get ready because we have a lot more.
Well, now that we're warmed up, we just had questions that are unanswered in the movie in general that I'm curious what your opinions of them are from how many times you've seen it.
And it's okay to say you don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel like this is like Bible trivia. Like, who's that again? I'm just going to say, like, Jesus. You know?
And we love to speculate wildly, so feel free to speculate wildly.
Just go nuts. Did you know after the first time you watched it that Frank and Co were aliens?
Like after I saw the whole movie?
Yeah.
Like, was that obvious to you the first time?
I think I knew that. I also sometimes
they kind of say it.
I also look at Wikipedia sometimes as I'm watching the movie, so sometimes just
you hate being caught off guard.
Well, sometimes
like,
just
I need
to see
know.
like where are we in the movie? Like if I
I do the same thing. I love to ruin movies for myself.
But I think I did know that. I think they make that pretty clear.
Sure. Because I'm curious if Riff and Magenta could actually be robots and not aliens.
Well, it could be an alien robot.
That's a reading, right? Sure.
Could be, I guess. There's no. I guess how do you not prove they're not ghosts that we can see? You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Like whatever it be,
a ghost would never wear that time. Mark. Come on, you know the
they
answer
could be a ghost
to
that
these
died in
questions
the future and then traveled back and possessed the body or something. You know what I mean? Who knows? It could be anything. Sure.
That's true.
Because that's a good point, that there's like the logic of the movie is barely there. So like,
well, they've opened a can of worms. As soon as you have like ray guns in a castle launching into space, like, well, anything is possible.
You're like, well,
yes,
they're playing pretty fast and loose with the world building, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because what in the world kind of coincidence is it that Dr. Scott, Brad, and Janet wind up there on the same night?
Well, Brad and Janet are together.
Mm-hmm. That might just be like the plot. Something needs to happen.
Right. We can't have them just Brad and Janet hanging out there for a week before Dr. Scott shows up. We got to move it along.
Like, I wonder how they wrote. They must have written the songs. Then, like, well, what do we? Or they have an outline. Like, I can't imagine they're like really thinking, like, well, no, this has to make sense. You know what I mean?
I think Brian Thompson, the production designer, had a whole like his own secret plot going on in his head that he set clues throughout the movie that you can read into. At this point, we're like, give us more. We've watched this movie.
We need something.
We need it
so much. Like, I'll take it. Because I'm curious if the reason that like Brad, when they arrive at the castle, why he's so like inquisitive of like looking in, he wants to come inside. He doesn't really ask for the phone. He's not like gung-ho on getting out of the castle. So I'm just curious if Dr. Scott maybe gave him the right address, and maybe they were supposed to leave. Maybe Brad and Janet were supposed to leave, and then that's why Dr. Scott
supposed to leave into space, maybe you're saying?
Like, they were only supposed to observe for like an hour, and then when they didn't show up for dinner, Dr. Scott was like, I should probably go in for recon.
I thought he was just based on like a trope of like the 50s sci-fi like blank slate everyman.
Sure.
Like naive and trusting.
Golden retriever.
He's a golden retriever. That's exactly right.
Yes, that's exactly what he is. Has that ever happened in a Shadowcast where parts are played by animals or inanimate objects?
Now who has the ideas?
You know what?
I'm warmed up.
That would be easy. Or you can make Rocky a golden retriever.
No, because Brad is literally a golden retriever.
Yeah.
What if it's just all golden retrievers?
Oh, Rocky Horror Puppy Show?
Mark, you've upstaged me
I think
again.
we have the next franchise in the Air Bud series, at least.
There we go.
Rocky Buddies.
Oh my gosh, that'd be adorable. Little
or at least if it's not a movie, it's at least a calendar.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
That's the perfect content.
Yes, I would buy that
either
calendar.
a movie or a calendar.
Oh, I need a calendar.
So then Dr. Scott arrives. He has this note that he says is from Eddie.
Who is Dr. Scott again?
He is the guy in the wheelchair?
Who burst through the wall?
Yes.
Yes, because there's no door.
Exactly.
I get him confused with the narrator.
That's fine.
That's funny that you say that, because Jonathan Adams played the narrator in the Rocky Horror Show. And then when they were casting for the movie, he
was Dr. Scott.
Yeah. Because in the stage show, Eddie would double cast as Dr. Scott.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Meatloaf was very upset that he didn't get to do that for the film. But it would have been, I don't know if it would have worked having Meatloaf
when
as
they
Dr.
double
Scott.
cast, I always think, maybe this is just my naive, but I'm always thinking, like, I get how they do it for like budgetary reasons, but is there ever like a thematic like this character is also like the other side of the coin, you know what I mean, like
Yes.
thematically?
Yes.
I think sometimes it is.
Well, because like Eddie and Dr. Scott are uncle and nephew, like they're related, so I can see why they would do that for like the stage show where it's like, oh, look at the family resemblance.
Right.
Oh boy. But that's also a good point, because in Shock Treatment, the same actor plays Brad and Farley, and I'm not sure they're different people. I'm not convinced yet that they're...
Until you see some proof?
This is... Yes, get me the proof.
Papers
of them in the same place?
Haley has another theory in this film, in Rocky Horror, that Dr. Scott and Frankenfurter are also the same person, and I completely disagree with this theory, because not only do they have conversation,
No, discredit it before we get to the idea.
Let her say her insane theory.
Do Dr. Scott and Frankenfurter talk to each other, but Brad, Janet, Riff, Magenta, and Rocky acknowledge both of them separately while they're in the same room.
Well, those are receipts if ever I heard them.
Well, maybe he's the same person, but he's like time traveled. So he's like, it's like
okay.
Maybe Dr. Scott is the future
time travel
version.
is yours. That's your excuse for
everything.
Well, time
travel opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yes, it does. Because could Frank actually be a man from the future? Could he just
or is
be
Dr.
someone?
Scott from the future, like the older Frank?
Yes, it could be either. I like this idea because you're right. They do time warps.
You really have been doing this show for 10 years. You're like, yes, exactly. We're all one person time traveling. That's what it is. So that's why I should be the only person in this Shadowcast because I get it. Because I can bring them all to life and that makes sense. You can all go home.
Goodbye.
Or buy a ticket and watch me do it all by myself.
All the characters. Split down the middle, have Frank on one side and Riff on the other, and just be turning.
Oh, just flip back and forth. Oh, you're poor Nick.
But yeah, I think that their relationship is interesting to say the least because they know each other before we're introduced to them, and I just don't know to what level, like, they work together, maybe, or...
Because they meet at last.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you should use the rest of this quarantine to write The Wicked of Rocky Horror.
Hey, maybe. That's a good idea, because I've been just tossing the idea around of getting, like, a master's degree in Rocky Horror.
She is in film school, so...
I'm sure the University of Phoenix will put them together for you.
Okay, but then Riff also tells Frank that his mission is a failure. Do you have any ganders on what Frank's mission is?
Well, what happens with Rocky? It seemed to be something about creating life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Rocky was... Because also, like, Eddie... Oh, no, Eddie existed beforehand. Mm-hmm. Eddie was like an ex of Rocky's, right? Or, excuse me, Frank's.
He was a delivery boy of either pizza or heroin. Don't know.
Or both.
Could be both. Could be both.
It was the 70s.
What about time travel?
Also...
What if he's delivering time travel?
He's delivering that hot
time travel.
Hot time travel.
You'll always get your pizza in under 30 minutes.
I think my guess is that the mission is creating like the perfect boyfriend, like making like Rocky wasn't like this the perfect submissive.
Or like taking over the world is usually what aliens seem to want to do.
Okay.
They're real fussy about that. Typically.
That's a really... Okay, you're leading me into the next question, which is...
Okay.
There's statements in the movie that can imply that Janet is impregnated by Frank. Or maybe Rocky. Yeah. That's the other thing is like maybe Rocky was manufactured for the aliens to take over the planet and to like impregnate
the women,
the female species,
the women folk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And by statements
creating,
we mean like
hot guys that no woman could resist or something.
I don't know.
Yes, and that's why when he asks for their honest, maybe that's why Brad and Janet needed to be in the laboratory, is that Frank needed to have a real woman, a real Earth woman, see if this was her type. And then she says that she doesn't like men with too many muscles, which is a lie.
She's lying. Filthy liar.
And by statements, we mean like the written statements that are in the criminologist, the narrator's like book that he has.
The Denton Affair.
So
when you
pregnant.
pause it and then
exactly. Yes.
Because the narrator is saying this, and well, also, where does he get his information from? Do we really know?
From Brad and Janet.
Yeah, is he omniscient?
Scott.
Well, okay, because there's statements. He's a detective of some sort, and he's trying to piece together
the events of the evening.
Yeah, based on these wild statements that Brad, Janet, and Dr. Scott are giving him that are full of aliens and
gobbledygook
and creating a man and like that's why Krim always looks so skeptical and so
confused,
incredulous. Like, I can't believe this is the statement they gave me, that like aliens killed Eddie in Colombia, when like you three are our only suspects for these two missing persons.
Who are the missing people?
Eddie and Colombia both are killed by
They're humans.
The Transylvanians. Yes.
I don't know.
We've gotten too deep for Mark on this one.
That's so funny. Oh man. Because then I'm also wondering if Krim is a human that's investigating this, or if he's actually a Transylvanian.
If he's an alien
as well.
I guess it depends on who you cast, basically, right?
What are the statements that make you think Janet's pregnant? Like, she's spotting, or like she's late or something? Yeah.
Frank says that he's laid the seed and it should be all she needs.
Ew.
And
right.
if... and
I don't care for that reading.
She heard
it's not too late to take
ring
Plan
when
B,
they
Janet.
made it.
It's not too late. Time travel.
The only other thing I'm wondering is if it's all a dream. If Dr. Scott, because we see him clicking his heels in Floor Show. I don't know if that's supposed to be a Wizard of Oz, get me out of this this nightmare, get me out of it. And then
do you do this to like Looney Tunes cartoons? Like...
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you should start watching Twin Peaks because it's made for this kind of deep dive.
Like this kind of like magical realism, and like, none of it holds up to logic.
It's absurd. It's totally absurd.
Yeah.
But because the movie has lasted for as long as it has, because it's spoken so much to so many generations of people, and so often when you ask people, what does Rocky Horror mean? Like, what did you think that was? That movie you just watched? They're like,
yeah.
It was, a musical.
It was a romp.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I'm just not going to accept the answer anymore because it's been
Okay, you're sick of it.
No.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of
Look
it. Because,
deeper, idiot.
Right. What other movie is getting
Take a stand.
replayed on a weekly basis? And not only are people paying admission to go see a movie that they could watch at home and rent for cheaper than that, not only that, the culture of shadow casting and participating is growing. And it's gotta be because there's more there than just
a fun romp.
The fun romp.
I think it's by like the certain like transgressive element of it. You know, it's still like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tunes are catchy. I don't think this needs a conspiracy theory reading.
You're talking to the wrong ladies then.
You've just nullified our whole project.
Wait, which podcast are we on? I'm sorry.
Because I don't know if I had seen it in the 70s, I don't know if I would have been able to say, yeah, that's going to last 50 years.
But when people watch it now, it's not like they're sitting quietly like, don't talk. We have to pick up on any nuance. They're going for the experience, the totality of the experience.
The energy of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not buying it.
I mean, it's just,
We've spent too much time watching this movie.
I've seen.
It's just if I've
This is why people don't like
point,
Scientology, because they've spent too much money and time.
Right. I've bought the books 5 times over.
I've cut my family out of my life.
Can't walk away.
Would you like to take a personality test?
Right.
Oh, I'm a riffraff. Okay, I'll buy it. What else are you selling?
Would you like some fishnets?
And some red lipstick. It's
this morning I didn't think I did, but now I do.
Because I guess what I ultimately want to ask you guys is what you think Rocky Horror means.
I don't know. For the most part, I think it's like bunch of like people who would be labeled like weirdos coming together and like saying "fuck you" to normal society, and just like doing their own thing, having a blast, and not giving a fuck.
Yeah, I think it's like a celebration of like being weird, or like, and just like it's initially sort of like a take on those old like science fiction movies from like the 30s and 40s and 50s, and just sort of being like, yeah, these are like ridiculous and fun and campy, and let's all be weird, and isn't it cool and fun? Like, yeah, I think it's more of that, just like a celebration of like the weirdness of human sexuality.
Yeah. That's well said, both of you. I appreciate both of your perspectives on it.
That's one more point for each of you.
Okay. I can't wait for the final tally.
Oh boy.
And just one last one. Because Mark, your last name is Rennie. Do you have
true.
any relation to Michael Rennie, aka The Day the Earth Stood Still?
Yes, I'm familiar with him.
That's not a relation.
I guess the answer is maybe, because my dad's mom said we were related, but she's an unreliable narrator. I'll just say that.
This is the conspiracy theory we've been waiting this whole podcast to get to.
Listen,
Mark.
I love
Bury the lead.
She's an unreliable
conspiracy
narrator
theories.
for reasons that aren't funny.
I love
so
unreliable narrators. You guys are just
maybe, I don't know.
23andMe it.
Yeah. Does it work for like specific like Hollywood stars of the 50s?
Probably not, but
you have to go to a psychic for that.
Ooh, right, yes. It's in your palm.
My brother did have the poster in his room though growing up. Because my brother's name is Michael
Rennie. Aww.
That is wonderful.
I do like that.
You guys are the actual best. I love talking with both of you.
You're the best.
This is a delight.
Can you please tell our listeners where they can listen to your podcast or anything that you're working on you want to share?
Yeah, plug all your plugs.
Well, our podcast is called Two Old Queens. You can find it pretty much wherever you find your podcasts. It comes out every week. We also have a Patreon called Two Old Queens: The Retirement Plan. Go to Patreon. You can find us there. What else?
I think that's about it, right?
That's about it. Those are our big projects.
Give it a listen. Your guys' episode is a lot of fun. I think that would be a great entry point.
Ooh, yes.
Exactly, yeah.
But really, any episode. You guys have such great guests. The movies that you pick are,
Well, the guests pick the movie. We just...
Well, hey.
We just tell them how they failed.
Yes. Well...
But, you guys have a Clue episode. You have... Death Becomes Her, Midsommar. You've done The Shining. You can scroll through their catalog and pick your favorite movie because they've done a ton of them. And, we loved being there too. So,
thank you for doing it. Thank you for having us.
Yes, this is a delight.
Thanks so much to John and Mark for talking with us, and thanks to you for tuning into this special presentation. And don't forget,
on Wednesdays we watch Rocky.
Bye.
Bye.
Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps us out, and we appreciate all your feedback. We'll see you next time.